So I found an insane Japanese sample and I turned it into a West Coast beat on Push 3 Standalone, and I'm gonna break down how I made the whole beat for you, so let's get right into it. So I was browsing the record collections on archive.org the other day and stumbled upon this. Not sure what the name of the album is, but this is insane. It's like they made it specifically for us to sample it. But yeah, there are a lot of gems to be found on archive.org. Definitely one of the best places to find all kinds of samples. And unlike YouTube, you get a high quality file to download. So I couldn't wait to sample this one, fired up my Push 3 Standalone and got to work. Then I recorded the first 4 bars of the sample onto an audio track. Immediately converted it into a simpler and made sure the start and end points are exactly where the phrase starts and ends, which means that I could just turn on warping and it would sync to the BPM of my set automatically. Then I lazy chopped it and also added some compression. I mean, this really isn't essential at this early stage. I don't really mix until I've transferred the set into live. However, these older samples usually need compression as it raises the, let's call it, average volume of the sample, and this helps it sit nicely in the mix without the need to turn it up too much. Also, since the sample was panned to the right, I used utility to narrow the stereo width to make sure it sounds more balanced. And as a side note, I'm working on a new pack that I want to release in a few months, which is going to be more focused on drums and drum racks, so it was a good opportunity to try out some of these new drum sounds. And for the bass line, I used my favorite preset from the Electric Bap pack called Bass Fiend. Definitely check out the pack if you haven't yet. It's full of great sounds that you can use in Ableton Live, Push and Move. Now, people often ask me how I find the key of samples and how I add these bass lines. Honestly, I usually just try all the notes on the keyboard and see which ones sound good with the sample. And from this, I can figure out what key it is. It's really not that hard if you know some basic music theory, unless the sample is out of tune. Then it becomes a whole lot harder, but fortunately this wasn't the case here. And obviously this wasn't available for me in Standalone, but if you're working in a DAW, an amazing plugin I can recommend is Tonic by Z-Plane, and this one tells you the key and also whether the sample is out of tune. So for example, with this one, the notes G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat sounded right, so I was pretty sure it was in G minor. So I just played these notes in a pattern that follows my sample chops. So once you figure out the key, it's really mostly intuition and feel. There isn't really any secret recipe that I'm gatekeeping and unwilling to share. Then I added some synth chords using another preset from Electric Bap. And automated the filter cutoff to add movement. Honestly, for the chords I didn't know the correct name, so I had to look them up, but basically these follow the bass line, alternating between G and C as the root note and this minor second interval in the chords where we have two notes a semitone apart playing together. This gives the chords a bit of a dark and dissonant sound. And so the piano part uses the same chords on top of the synth chords, otherwise it would sound kind of messy, and the rest is just the notes from the chord played in a more rhythmic pattern. I also added this choir or vocal pad from Korg Gadget for a more dramatic feel. And of course, the obligatory classic G-Funk lead. Again, this one is from the Electric Backpack. I honestly really like using my own synth presets because I know they work for me and I don't have to spend a lot of time searching for the right sound. Okay, time for the B section. I went back to the sample to see which chops I hadn't used for the A section and constructed a new pattern with them that sounds different but works well with the pattern from the A section when playing them one after the other. And then another bass line to match the new sample chops, and the same chords with the piano, but in a different order. And a different choir melody and a lead synth part. And so that was the B section, and it was all done in push 3 in standalone mode. It was enough to build a full track in live. So I loaded up the project on my computer and arranged it. I figured I wanted it to start without a long intro, and I also used the B section in the middle to add some variety. Also added some spoken word samples, and these are from GTA 5.
Let's go! 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 Go!
Actually, I have a huge pack of samples from all GTA games that you've probably seen me use in some of my recent videos as well. But this track definitely has a GTA vibe to it, so I think it fits really well. As far as the mix goes, since I was using mostly my own sounds with the exception of the piano, the vocal pad and the Japanese sample, there was really not much need for extensive mixing. But I made sure to pan the sample, the piano and the synths slightly in opposite directions, so that when these parts play together, they have more room to breathe. This enhances the clarity of the mix. Also a high pass filter on the sample, very slight side chain on the bass to make it duck when the kick hits, just very slightly so that they don't clash. And again, you don't want your kick and bass to clash, that can ruin your mix. And there's also heavier side chain on the vocal pad, which I always do for these sustained sounds. And that was pretty much the beat. Let's hear how the final product sounds.
Let's go.
So yeah, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're new here, and click the link on the screen for another sampling session on Push 3 where I get more into tips for creating an interesting arrangement. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you later.